Hi, my name's Archi Rant, and I'm going to be talking about the mighty quest for epic loot. Mainly I'm going to be talking about the recent changes in their last few patches and how I think they're completely ruining the game. But I'm not just going to crap all over what they've done. I'm going to try and make some suggestions that are hopefully good, and hopefully I'll get some feedback from whoever might watch this video. So, the mighty quest for epic loot. What is it? Basically, you're in a land called Opulencia. It's filled with clouds, and on top of the clouds there are castles, and all the castles are owned by players. And what you basically do as a player is you attack each other's castles and rob each other blind, which is actually pretty cool. It's a pretty cool premise of the game. It's split mainly into two halves, attacking people. So you pick your hero and you kit him up with all the cool gear and whatever, and then you attack someone's castle and you rob them blind. The other side of it is people will be attacking your castle, so you have to build an awesome mousetrap of a defense and hope that they all die within your castle walls. So the game is in beta, so it's partly one of the reasons why I'm doing this video. So if they think any of the ideas are good, at least there might be a chance they might make changes. But it also means that there are a few bugs and like UI bugs and character balancing that needs to be done. The knight! Run away! And also AI fixes like with Flamio and Pete Poundmore. I'm not really going to go into those because as the beta changes, I'm sure most of those things, if not all, should get ironed out along the way, just to try and make the game function. So really, I just want to focus on a few big changes, or changes that I feel are big and completely ruin the game, and how they can improve on them or change them altogether to something better. Bling Mines are a big problem in the game, mainly because it breaks the economy of the game. It's pretty nice for customers who have bought the Bling Mines. I mean, as soon as they put it on sale, I was like, yeah, I'm totally getting that. And why was that? Because Bling is the premium currency in the game, and Bling Mines allow you to generate your own premium currency, in which case I never have to spend any real money ever again on the game. My only solution for this is to remove the Bling Mines. Now, it might feel a little unfair to the players. Oh, I bought my bling so I could get this bling mine and now you're removing it. Well, it's in beta. The one thing you know is that they could make changes to absolutely everything and they can still give you back the bling that you spent. In fact, what I think they should do is maybe give you 2,000 or 3,000 bling for both of the mines, and maybe some cool cosmetic items as well. And maybe some kind of weird banner or whatever to basically something shiny to put on your castle so everybody knows that you used to own the Bling Mines. And the reason for that, in fact, they could probably give you more because they're buying back the ability to make money on their premium currency again. But I think they do have to remove them from the game. Once they do that, then they can actually start making some proper decisions. Or making some good decisions on how they want to progress with making changes in the game. I think all the changes they've made recently, all the endless bling promotions where it just feels ridiculous, padding out the game with defense crafting, which I'll move on to in a moment. I think all of that comes from the point where they introduced Bling Mines and then realised, holy crap, we can't make any money from Bling Mines from Bling anymore. The first problem with defense crafting was, especially of how they implemented it, was the fact that people are now going to have to grind for weeks just to replace the stuff that's already in their castle, just to be able to make it slightly defensible. Now that can be fixed if they massively increase the drop rates of resources, so people can do it quicker. But you're still going to have a longer period of time where your castles are going to be terrible, and you're going to just take losses after losses after losses. The overall issue with it, however, in the long term, is that it actually is just padding out a broken economy. So even if they change the drop rate, so you can get all the resources and you build your army back up, and you have enough stuff so that you can keep changing your castle daily. But at that point, resources become completely pointless. I mean, unless they add more content to the game, which they haven't done a great job of that, like actual content, not padding out mechanics, then resources will become completely pointless, and then your economy will stagnate, and then you'll just get stockpiles of resources. The same thing that happened to Life Force just before this patch. So I have some ideas on solutions to some of these issues. The first thing though is about how to replace creatures in future when they make big changes to castles, just so it's less annoying for everybody. Rather than cover everything in a big green sludge and call them cursed, what they can do instead is just say all the creatures in your inventory in your castle now have one ticket, and you can trade in that creature into the shop for one for one of the new legitimate creatures. So when it comes to something like a Cyclops, which actually has 3 specializations, and they want to separate that again into 3 different units, you trade in your Cyclops and you can trade it in for one of the specializations. That's all. That's all you had to do. So it would have been a case of me logging in. Oh, they've made this change. Oh, I've got a ticket for each and every creature in my inventory and in my castle. Okay, it's a little annoying. I've got to do it by one by one, but yeah, I'll trade that in for the new version, trade that in for the new version, so on, so on, so on, so on. Oh, how is my castle currently? I've got to trade in these Cyclopses. Do I want to focus on just one specialization and trade in all my Cyclopses for one kind of specialization, or do I want to split it up? Point is, that's what they could have done, and it would have been a lot easier. Now, as I said, the fence crafting as an idea is pretty good, but I think the way they've gone about implementing it wasn't because the fence crafting is kind of a cool idea. I think it was more because they were looking for ways, 1, to pad out the content that was already in there, and 2, to find a way to separate the creatures that have 3 specializations. So, for example, Jimbo has 3 specializations, and they were looking for a way to separate those into 3 different units, which is something they really did need to do. Now, I think a better idea than the current implementation of defense crafting would actually be to have destructible creatures and items. Now, when it comes to destructible creatures, I think firstly you should be able to purchase the creatures with either life force or a small amount of bling. So say 25,000 life force for a Jimbo, because I can't remember how much it costs, or you can pay 5 bling. An easy small amount of bling that you don't really care too much about, but in the long run it will add up and you'll end up purchasing more bling, so you can just get creatures more conveniently. Now, the idea about destructible creatures on the whole is that they come with lives, and when you purchase a creature it will come with, for example, 10 lives, and every time your castle loses, and by loses I mean your castle is defeated and the shield goes up, and then you have to take down the shield to open the castle back up to the public. Each time you take that shield down, that's when all the creatures inside your castle would then lose a life. So that means your castle could lose effectively 10 times before you'd have to start replacing your creatures. Now, as far as destructible items, what I meant by that was that items should have durability. So when you die in somebody's castle, each time you die your equipment loses 10% durability, and when it hits 0 that piece of equipment is destroyed. And if you want to repair that piece of equipment back to full health, you either pay X amount of gold, maybe 10 grand or 20 grand depending on how damaged it is, or you can pay a small amount of bling, say 5 bling or something like that, if you want to save the gold. A small amount, an easy amount of bling. The next major issue is the timer boost on mines. It's just something that has to be changed. Basically, for every mine you destroy, you get plus 5 seconds of time added to your clock, which makes the entire point of a timer for competitive reasons in the game pointless. Anytime you set in your own castle, you then would have to, at current, you would have to then plus 50 seconds on top, because that's how much extra time people will have when running your castles, assuming you have Bling Mines. So either that has to be removed altogether, or put to something more reasonable, like 2 seconds. About the amount of time it would take you to actually pick up the stuff that drops out of the mine. Though really I think it should be removed altogether. Public validation. I really don't think they thought this one through when they put it in. I mean, even in the forums, where as soon as we read how it works in the forums, everybody instantly started posting the issue with public validation. That being, there is no motive for an attacker who's trying to set a time in your castle to set a fast time. In fact, it's better if they take a really long time, set that time, say 5 or 10 minutes, and then rerun the castle just faster than they did it before, and then get all the loot and the crowns and all the rest of it. The idea again itself isn't a bad idea. I mean, part of the reason I think they put it in there is because the current classes are pretty unbalanced, and they're trying to find a way to make it competitive again, or at least the times when the castle's competitive. So a knight or a runaway, which is extremely slow through any castle compared to an archer or a mage, can now get an archer or a mage to try and set a time in their castle, rather than actually balancing out the characters. Now, my solution to public validation? Well, it's a good idea. I actually want it to stay in the game. But I think what they need to do is find a way to make it extremely competitive for those who are attacking the castle trying to set the time. So what I suggest is a public validation window, where the defender will put bling up as a prize, and the castle will be up for say 6 hours, and everybody who wants to can try and run that castle within that 6-hour window. At the end of that 6-hour window, whoever got the fastest time then gets the bling reward at the end. Bear in mind, I just mentioned that a player could put up bling for other players to try and win it. This way, also, if they have a table, so when you click on the actual castle, so you can see who has the best time so far, one, so the owner of the castle can keep track, and two, so attackers can keep track. I think that would add to the motive for competition to try and actually get an extremely good time in that castle. Next problem. Won't take that long. It's the DPS boost. Remove it. The first thing about the problem is you've just doubled everything in the game's damage without increasing their health. So the entire game becomes a nuke fest. Every castle you build will be about just getting them to nuke the hero faster than the hero can nuke them. That's the entire game now. It's broken the game. Remove it from the game. Now, I have a few other suggestions that I think would improve the game or are a long time coming for the game, and I think the devs should focus on some of these. Fix the front door. Please, for the love of all that is like cosmic and awesome, fix the front door. Now, the problem with the front door currently is that players will go into a castle and pull each creature out one by one to the front of the castle where there's nothing to worry about, and they may take 15 minutes to do your castle, but they'll do it because the timer doesn't mean anything. Crowns and the whole crowns and star system is currently broken anyway, so all they want is the loot at the end of your castle. Now, one of the ways you can fix the front door is to add a portcullis or a portal and tie it to the timer. Now, what I mean by that is the timer isn't currently working very well as a competitive mechanic, but it could be tied to the front door. So whoever has built their castle and validated their castle is still trying to do it to get an extremely fast time. The reason why is so whoever's then attacking their castle, if that timer which is 0, the front door closes. Now what happens when the front door closes or the portcullis drops? If the player's outside the front where they've probably dragged all the creatures out the front to make it easy, then this mission failed. They lose. They have to start again. However, if they're inside the castle and the door closes, then it's mission as usual. Now understand that, say, the archer and the mage may on occasion actually have to pull creatures, especially at the start, out of the castle because there might just be too much crap and there's not enough space to do anything, which is why I said link it to the timer. So basically, if a castle took 3 minutes, and there's no way they can get it done in 3 minutes because they have to pull stuff out, they have 3 minutes to use that tactic of pulling things at the front to fight it, to make some space inside the castle, and then they have to get back in before that 3 minutes happens. Another way to look at it is, instead of using a portcullis, I wonder if it should actually be a portal, because I can imagine an archer pulling a bunch of creatures out, and then 1 second before the time runs out, they'll dive back in and all the creatures will be trapped outside. So I reckon it should probably be more something like a magical portal or a magical door or something. Effectively, the idea being that it's one way for the player, so if they're outside they can't get back in, but it's two way for the creatures, so if they're stuck outside when the door closes, they can easily come back in and carry on fighting. You know when you click on an attacker's castle and you get a nice little sort of data sheet of all this information about the castle, how hard it is, how many people have attacked it, who last beat it, blah 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 blah. Be nice if you could see that information about your own castle. People have been talking about this a lot in the forums for a while now and they still haven't done it. Just change that. Just make it so there's a button you can click on your castle and see what the public information is about your own castle. That would be quite nice. Another little small change would be to, when you look at the log of who has attacked your castle, it would be nice if it actually covered the win-lose section and all that, basically all that information that talks about if they won or if they lost, and you could just press a button to actually show it if you want, because it'd be nice to actually watch the replay and not know which of these 10 people who have attacked my castle in the last few hours has actually beaten it or lost. As I like that tense feeling of not knowing what the outcome will be. But if you don't like that, you should be able to just click a button and actually just check for yourself. Attacks should be based around the mines and not around the treasure room. Now, I think this has actually introduced some issues into how the game can be competitive, because currently your only goal in the game really is to get to the end of the castle so you can get all the loot. Now you have 8 mines in your castle, all with loot, not including Bling Mines, and that should be where the loot is, really. You should have to go and explore the castle and find those mines to get the loot. Currently, if you skip all the mines and just go to the end and beat the boss and get to the end without dying, you get 1 star for not dying and 1 star for beating the time. Well, of course you've beaten the time. You haven't had to go for any of the bloody mines, so you still get a certain amount of crowns and so on. So basically, they should change the focus from the end room to getting all the mines. That's where the focus should be. Tombstones. When somebody dies in your castle, it's pretty cool. They leave a little tombstone. You can go and click on the tombstone and get a little bit of life force. Fortunately, that's all it is, a little bit of life force. It'd be nice if it dropped a little bit of gold as well. That's all, just to help pay for some of the repairs and changes and the eventual loot loss. It'll just help compensate for some of the loot loss at the end when somebody finally does beat your castle. Now here's an idea. Using bling payments in crafting. And I don't mean using bling to craft a better item. I mean using bling to substitute payments with gold. So say you want to save your gold, save on gold, you can use bling. Another thing I was thinking of, when you craft something, you say sacrifice 3 items and say 35,000 gold to craft a new item. Effectively, you sacrifice all that stuff to have a dice roll at a random chance of getting a cool item. Now, what you should be allowed to do as well is to add a payment of bling, just a small amount, say 5 bling, so that if it's an item you don't want, you get 1 free reforge of that item in the hopes to get a better item. So basically, you're paying 5 bling for another dice roll. You're not paying for a better item or anything like that. Currently, an attacker can just keep attacking a castle again and again and again until eventually, like after the 10th time, they beat that castle and then they'll get all the loot. Now, that's not really fair to the defender. So I think after 2 attacks, then that castle should be shielded to that specific attacker. They can't just keep attacking it and then hope to get the loot. They could carry on after it's shielded, for practice, but they're not going to get anything out of it. Now, what the attackers should be able to then do is pay the defender, say 5 bling, I like using 5 bling, 5 or 10 bling, and to take the shield down, so they can have another attempt at attacking their castle and getting all the loot. Now, if they win, great, they paid 5 bling, but now they've got all the golden life force and so on, and all the crowns and the rest of it. But if they pay that 5 bling and lose, well then they lose, and they've lost 5 bling to the defender. And that way you have a nice little bit of a bling transaction between players in that sense. Also, there would have to be a cap. You couldn't do it more than 3 times. So if somebody had a lot of bling, they couldn't grief a single player doing that. Also, if somebody was trying to transfer bling in some kind of dodgy way, they couldn't use that method to do it. So if you had a cap, say 3 times in a 24-hour period. Also, another idea that would be quite nice would be if a defender could put a little bling bonus on top of the prize in their castle. So say if they're low on gold and life force, they can say put up to a maximum of 10 bling as the prize in their castle. So when somebody 3-stars their castle, they would actually have to 3-star that castle. If the first person to do that then gets a 10 bling. That would be nice, and it would encourage. That's another little bit of bling transaction between players and so on. Now, dyes. People might not like me saying this about dyes, but I think dyes, other than rare drops, should be entirely cosmetic and all paper with bling. Shouldn't get it any other way, really. It's a cosmetic thing. A few rare drops would be nice. They should do that for other items as well. For a few cosmetic items that can be dropped rare, but outside of that, it really should just be paid for with bling. Small amounts of bling, so people can keep buying it, using it, and I don't like this colour now, I want to change it. So it'll be like 5 bling, 5 bling, 5 bling. But the point is so people can keep changing their minds and keep spending bling. Something else I think would just be kind of cool would be to know the bling value of a castle. Now what I mean by that is, we're in a land called Opulencia. I want more means to show my opulence. I want to be opulent. And it would be nice if when you click on the player's castle, you can see the bling value. So everything inside the castle added up to its value in bling. So I want to know if I'm robbing a super rich bling castle or a really weak bling castle. I would like to know. It should be nice information. Ultimately, if you remove the Bling Mines, you can start using bling as a carrot. And as you've probably heard me mention, I keep mentioning small amounts of bling being moved either between players as a reward system or put into the game via the devs as parts of rewards and so on and so forth. But the idea is that lots and lots and lots of small bling transactions equals people buying more and more bling and not minding spending it all the time. So I think they should just sort of keep that kind of idea in mind. So that's it. That's the issues I currently have with the beta and some of the suggestions I think would fix the game or make the game better. If anybody has any better ideas or problems with the ideas that I had or anything like that, please put it in the comments. So I hope the devs kind of listen to some of these ideas or come up with just better ideas than they've currently got, maybe better ideas than what I've put there. But the point is, I think they're currently ruining their game, and I think these ideas will make the game better, or at least changing the stuff that they put in the game would make the game better. I'm not really going to play this game again until I see some positive changes to the game. I've kind of had enough of it. Sorry guys, I gave it like 11 patches and each patch just got worse. So I think I'm going to wait a while, see what they do with the beta, and hope they make some better choices.